Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. I was just sitting here listening to Broken Things and reading Psalm 37, and I got caught up on the line, He delights in every detail of their lives. And I started to wonder that if God cares about the details of our lives, then maybe we should take a closer look at them. Genesis talks about the creation of the world and Adam and Eve, but a lot more than is described there went into making life as it is today in 2017. I mean, despite the thousands upon thousands of years depicted in the Bible, and the formation of the church, the birth and death of Jesus, the book of Psalms, there's the politics of man, the creation of art, the discoveries and inventions in the name of science. And the remarkable thing is that God not only planned for all of this, but knew it would happen from the beginning. But it doesn't end there. Sometimes details give us a better glimpse of the big picture. For NASA, the little details got them to the moon in 1969, which seemed pretty big picture considering how the first flight by the Wright brothers was in 1903. Only 66 years later, and they were already shooting for the heavens, so to speak. Which is nothing when you take a look at the Milky Way galaxy, which is comprised of somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars. We haven't, and maybe never will, be able to explore these far reaches of the galaxy, but we can trust God that they were made for His glory and to suit His plan. Every detail, handcrafted and purposefully created to have each one of us alive today and now. As if the details God created for our world couldn't be more astonishing. There's a whole galaxy of cells and microorganisms living inside each and every one of us that is held to the same laws of science that govern celestial bodies. The physics is all the same and equally important for the approximately 37.2 trillion cells inside the human body, each piece and part playing together in a specific way. So if God meticulously made all of this detail to simply have life, why wouldn't He delight in His work? But Adam, the devil's in the details, right? Well, I think washing hands is the perfect metaphor to use here. What's normally a simple and quick task is quite the chore for surgeons who spend anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes per scrub. They may argue we should stick to the original. God is in the details. Our God is a God of details. The Bible is riddled with seemingly small characters with interesting backstories that show the complexity of God's grace. For instance, it's amazing how a little extra knowledge about the Good Samaritan helps explain the gravity of this situation. Another lesser-known biblical character is Rahab. She first appears in Joshua chapter 2 and is introduced as an innkeeper, a Gentile, so a non-believer, and a prostitute. But when 2 of Joshua's spies come to Jericho to scope out the town, she not only welcomes them into her inn to stay, but lies to the town's soldiers that question her about the spies' whereabouts. While we classically think of the countless fallible men like David, who rise up to the occasion to fight for him and his people against larger-than-life enemies, we encounter yet another unlikely hero who does exactly what God asks of her. It was her faith in a God she only heard stories about and barely knew that drove her to lie and protect Joshua's men from an army that would have killed her for her deceit. Rahab is subsequently rewarded for her faith, and her family is spared when the Jewish army comes to take Jericho. And after living a life without God, a life by the sounds of it that was not very pleasant and filled with sin, this woman chooses to accept God, and her life is changed from then on. Now, I'm sure life didn't immediately become easy, as is the case in all of our lives after accepting Jesus. But Rahab is described later in the Bible as marrying one of those spies she protected. And the crazy part is that through their descendants, Jesus is born. Her trust in a God she had no ties to directly led to the birth of His Son, which to me is a pretty important detail. This is, of course, just one of many parables, anecdotes, tidbits, and otherwise awesome details that are strewn throughout the Bible to add depth to the stories and ultimately help to make them more relatable and moving. The fine details help to give context, which helps us understand the bigger picture, but only if we take the time to examine them and reflect on their significance. 998, 999, 1,000. Looks can be deceiving. Movie magic is entirely based on that concept in more ways than one. The interesting thing is that some of the biggest deceptions come from just looking in the mirror. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not worthy. The ones that seem to hit the hardest are that God doesn't care about me. God doesn't listen to my prayers. But as soon as we start to doubt that God doesn't care about the details, then we actually start to doubt Him. And like Rahab, the best thing to do is to trust Him with the details of our lives. To know that He cares about the circumstances we are in because it was all part of His plan to get us there. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever fear, whatever pain, whatever joy, God wove you into existence with a plan for how you fit into this world. The problem is that people often associate the details about our own lives as being too small for Him to notice, which is interesting because it's almost like we think God did a bad job making us. But God sees the details of our lives as the details He created for us to make us special, to make us who we are, to make two brothers look similar, but also different. To God, all the details of your life are known, and to Him they are all equally important. Then, those same details you dislike about yourself or consider flaws are as crucial to you as the reasons why you are passionate about the things you love. Take a look at the Mona Lisa, a masterpiece of art that I would venture to say is pretty well known. Is every brushstroke perfect? No. Is every color selected the optimal choice? Probably not. Is the horizon in the background the same on both sides? Wait a minute. No, it's not. Doesn't that seem bizarre to you? Could this be a flaw in the painting? Or just the doing of a master artist, creating a work of art that demands that you pay attention to it, that you question it, that you look at its smile and its features and wonder more about it and the reason behind its specific creation? Was Da Vinci a god? Of course not. He was just a man created by the same God who created each one of us. But the point is that we are all His works of art. He made us and formed us, and He delights in our lives, and He loves every single detail of us because He handcrafted each one. And those details tell a story. They tell our story. And the best part is, we all have a specific role to play in a greater story. His story. And I, for one, trust God to have made me the character He wanted me to be. He's way better at the details anyway.